Hello and welcome to the brewery. Over the past few months I've been making something a bit different. So as part of a challenge from my homebrew club, Manchester Homebrew, we were challenged to make sake, so Japanese rice wine. We had a session with an expert on sake who talked us through the process and the types of sake that are available, and then he set us off and he's going to come back in a couple of months to taste what we've been producing. So sake making is quite different from making beer. In many ways you can view it as the mash and the ferment process are happening nearly simultaneously, which makes the whole process quite complicated and quite interesting. So over the past few months I've been making various variations on sake, and for the rest of this video I'll show you how it's done. So now we have the yeast in some water with some salts and some yeast nutrients. We have a bowl of rice. We have our pack of koji rice. Next step is to add this koji rice into the yeast. Okay, so now on to the next step. We have our 10 litre fermenter. It's a tub off Amazon. It'll do the job for now. So we need to add our rice with the koji in it and our yeast. Right, and now we start adding in the cooked and cooled rice. Glad I picked a fermenter with a nice, relatively big opening. I'm only losing a little bit of rice. But I was originally thinking of doing this as something much more like a demijohn, which would have been a daft idea. Because all of that's in there. Let's just stir. And now we're finally getting to move into a big fermenter and add some rice. More rice. So let's get going. This is very weird compared to brewing beer. I'm not sure how I'm going to get this back out of the fermenter in the end, but we'll work that out when we get there. So all this rice has been washed, then soaked for an hour, then drained for an hour, then steamed for another hour. So this process, even cooking the rice, so that goes into the fermenter. I'm using this conical because it's what I have and it fits in my fridge. I'm just trying to smooth that out a bit. Cleaning this is going to be an utter pain. There we go. Right, we put that into there, and then we get this effectively starter we've been making with the yeast and the koji in it, and we add that into there. Amount of liquid, and then we need to go and get a spoon and give that a good stir. I believe the process is now that over the next 3 or 4 days we'll gradually be filling up the fermenter with a combination of rice, koji rice and water until we're nearer to full. But let's see where we get to on the next day of the process. Okay, and today we're adding 1.2 kilograms of rice that we've steamed first. the rest of the koji rice. Right, let's get this back into the fermentation chamber. And on to the final day of rice additions and rice steaming and rice boiling. Here we have quite a lot more rice. 4 bowls this time rather than 3 yesterday, some which are bigger. Yeah, it's much the same process as before. We take the lid off, we stick some rice in. Now some kind of fermentation appears to be happening because we have carbonation in here. At this point I wanted to work out what the ABV of the sake was going to be. But because we've been doing this staged addition of fermentables by adding the rice over several days, there wasn't really any point where we had a concept of an original gravity. So what I did was I took a final gravity reading with a hydrometer and then did the same with a refractometer. We know that the refractometer's reading will be inaccurate, but we can correct this if we know the original gravity. By adjusting how this formula, this correction is done, you can actually flip the process, and if you have an accurate final gravity from the hydrometer and the inaccurate one from the refractometer, you can work back to what the effective original gravity was, and from there work out what the ABV was. And in this case it worked out at about 14.5%. So this has been fermenting for about another 10-11 days since I took it off the rice, and apparently now it's time to rack it into another fermenter. So let's give that a go. So I've got another 10 litre fermenter off the internet. It comes with these straps. It's actually not very good. I wouldn't get one of these again. It's really easy to dent, but I've got it so it'll work. I've sanitised that really thoroughly. So all I'm going to do is put that on something. Let me find something to put it on, and then we will start siphoning. So out we come. We've got a few bits of rice floating on the top. Hopefully this will get rid of the last few bits that got through the straining process. At this point I decided to split the batch, some onto some plum puree and a little bit onto some medium toasted oak that I will cover how I made it in another video. So after many rackings, well 4 I think, and a long time at a cold temperature of about 8 to 10 degrees in the fermenting fridge, it's actually finally time to bottle the sake. So I've chosen these nice ceramic bottles. Well, once a drink has had that amount of time and effort in it, we might as well make it look pretty. They've obviously been cleaned and sanitised, and now it's time to rack it down. So I'm just using an auto siphon. Right, so today we're just going to filter the plum sake, which I've just put into this jug. I'm going to run through this siphon with a filter inside it that I've picked up off the internet. The advantage of being a metal siphon is it won't scratch as badly. This might take some time. So here I have the final version of the plain sake. It's sort of just a very pale straw in colour, nearly perfectly transparent. Hold up to the light. Yeah, I think that's perfectly transparent. Obviously there's no head because it's not a beer. Initially you get some of the aroma of the grain of the rice backed up with some sort of fruitiness, like maybe papaya, maybe those Japanese really sweet appley things, peary appley things. Yeah, there's definitely some sort of sweet pear in there. It's all quite restrained. There's a little bit of alcohol as well, a little bit of pepperiness in the background. The gentle fruitiness carries through onto the flavour, maybe getting a bit more towards sort of red apple, really ripe pear, that kind of thing. The peppery alcohol is still present. It tastes... There's a certain amount of alcohol warmth there in the end of the flavour. It is about 14.5%, so that's not entirely unsurprising. This is strong barley wine territory, or strong wine territory even. Next we have the plum version. This is much cloudier. They could get away with being a New England IPA, apart from having no head. The plum is very evident in the aroma. And once again, there's a little bit of sweet apple in there, maybe some apricot. But that, once again, could probably be the plum. The flavour here is much sweeter. The plain version is quite dry. This is sweet, almost dessert wine sweetness. I'm not sure how much further fermentation happened with the fruit in it, with the plums in it. So I think there's a fair amount of residual sugar from them. But overall very nice, and we enjoyed this with Christmas pudding this year. Well, I hope you enjoyed that complex process. I may do an update in a couple of months when the sakes have been tasted by the experts, see what his feedback is. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video.